Hello everybody, welcome to this video. In this video, I'm going to analyze a Chinese TV series called 锁满花开. This TV series tells the story of minority village in southwest China achieved poverty alleviation, leading by a well-educated female officer grown up in the city. In the current context of China, politically, Xi Jinping's government proposed in 2015 that winning the war of poverty alleviation is one of the most vital goals of the government in the following 5 years. In 2020, the Chinese National Radio and Television Administration made a notice to promote the broadcasting of poverty alleviation TV series, which is said to create a social atmosphere. Around 2020, many TV series are broadcast on major TV stations in China. In such series, the representation of rural people who is the object of poverty alleviation is always negative and stigmatized. Such narrative shows the otherization of rural people from the urban centralism view, which will deprive our possibility for rural people to actively renegotiate their identity. In this video, I'll introduce some plots and many-analyze a special character in 锁满花开, Muga. From his story, clothing, etc., to analyze his identity and how he struggles with and try to renegotiate his identity. Muga grew up in a rural area. Due to the high cost of medical treatment for his mother, the family fell into a poverty crisis. To improve the condition of family, Muga works in the city as a delivery man for more salary than farming in the countryside. The first appearance of Muga is in an armed conflict. The cause of the conflict is that the old village chief used his power to seek more advantage for his relatives from the policy, and Muga and his friends believe that the proper target of the special support is themselves. In this conflict, Muga's motivation wasn't justice. Actually, he didn't belong to the poorest family in the village. The anger of him was only from the fact that he was not getting special benefits. Although the rural people could be basically divided into two camps, we can almost tell many shared attributes from them, such as injustice, selfish, and greed. Meanwhile, Wang Min, the protagonist, young village chief from the city, shows totally different attributes, which are almost completely opposite to the real people. Wang helped to define the boundary of rural people as an obvious non-real one. The most visual difference is clothing. Wang Ming's clothing seems out of place in the conflict. As Hao argued, identification is a process of articulation, a suturing, an overdetermination, not a subsumption. The clothing is one of the most significant ways to identify real people. Also, as a discursive practice, the clothing serves as an approach for identification. The clothing and the experience of living in the countryside together form an effective articulation. In this process, individuals living in the rural area are reduced to a social group carrying rural people as their identity. According to Hao, identification is not only a process of categorizing, but also a process of producing the meaning of identities. In this TV series, there is also an implied part of articulation, which is negative attributes. By forming and repeating the articulation while conforming the identity of rural people, these negative attributes turning seemingly natural. To avoid that, we should find out how the articulation be repeated and how the meaning of rural people are reproduced. The repeating of the articulation is achieved by showing the behavior of rural people. By being watched, every independent individual behavior becomes discursive practice, which is reproducing meaning for real people. Characters' practice are both descriptive and performative. The story of this TV series is how Wang overcomes various difficulties and lead rural people eventually achieve poverty alleviation. These difficulties are embodied into the characters and their behavior. Since the setting of rural characters is certainly purposeful, the image and behavior are based on and separate from a subtle Platonic ideal form, which is bad people who need to be saved. The setting is to simply and concretely describe the difficulties in poverty alleviation. Therefore, the shown behavior of rural people is almost negative. The behavior are also performative. Briefly, Judith Butler argued that cultural practices are not just the result of identity, also they are performative, which refers to that the cultural practice could serve to defining, maintaining, producing, and reproducing the meaning of identities, to act as what you want to be seen like. For descriptive purposes, rural people are portrayed badly, and their obviously negative behaviors allows the audience to easily summarize the negative attributes of rural people. By watching, the articulation was repeated and enhanced. The meaning of rural people are also reproduced, so that the assumptive meaning of rural people transmits from the TV series to the audience, but without the participation of rural people living in the countryside. In the reproducing of the meaning of rural people, they have almost no agency, because the TV series is dominant, and the narrative and perspective for mentioned purpose are obviously hostile to them. After Mughal discovered that Wang was appointed as a new village chief, he decided to loyal to Wang to end the special support. However, Wang is always fair and perceptive. Mughal's tactics certainly didn't work. He was disqualified again in the new selection. Then Mughal became very annoyed. He stopped pleasing Wang and became the biggest opponent in the village. He destroyed the crops of the target family of special sports and singing in front of the Wang's dormitory overnight, keeping Wang Ming unable to sleep. Later, Wang Ming found Mughal, talked to him and his father. His father's apology changed Mughal's mind, and then Mughal be loyal ever since. Mughal's clothing style has changed for many times. As mentioned before, clothing is an important approach for identification. This changing reflects the duality of his social identity. Villager once commented on Mughal as smart one, which is connected to the longer living experience in the city. According to the comment from the villager, smartness per se seems an attribute that does not belong to rural people. For her, rural people ought to be non-smart. Actually, this view is creatively confirmed by the poll order. In Facebook from the Soil, he denied the stupidity of rural people. The stupidity, as argued by Fei, is based on an urban centralism view. The accusations of stupidity are based on context and criteria. The attempt to extend the criteria in the city to the rural areas clearly reflects the idea of urban centralism hegemony. The comments from the villager shows rural people is unconsciously accepting the given meaning of their identity and losing the ability to renegotiate the meaning of their own identity under urban centralism discourse system. From the perspective of Wang, Mughal is a sole problem, the civilized rural people. As which is said to persuade Mughal, the biggest enemy causing poor is their hearts. The key to Mughal's identity dilemma is not to figure out to what extent he is a rural people or urban one, because the binary opposition of rural people against urban people was assumptive, and there is no absolute and highly fixed meaning of rural people. However, the stereotypes shown in the portrayal of rural people in the series did not leave Mughal any room to actively renegotiate his self-identity. Under the gaze of rural people and urban people, Mughal obtained his identity dilemma as being both and neither. Mughal's ending was good. He became the new village chief. But as long as this hegemony urban centralism view still dominates the discourse system, Mughal and other rural people will never be free to renegotiate their identity. In conclusion, this video demonstrates that clothing is used as an approach of identification, which defines the boundary of identity of rural people. In addition, this video discussed how this TV series repeatedly portray and judge the negative behaviors of rural people from the perspective of urban centralism, and found this narrative performatively gave rural people a negative meaning, naturalized the negative attributes, and convey it to the audience. Under the urban centralism dominant discourse system, the ability of rural people to actively reproduce or renegotiate their identities is deprived. In the modern world, the media undoubtedly plays an important role in the construction of identities. If the mainstream media still hold the stereotypes and views the rural people from a hegemonic perspective, then true equality in China is still far away.